But for renewals, like how often are people giving renewals or like how far out? And then is there an incentive to renew closer up? Because some people at the workshop were like, well, I have applicants who say they're going to move in and then they tell me they're not moving in the day before. And I was like, whoa. Let's talk about this. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael. We're excited you joined us again for this adventure.
Yay! So, Michael and I are on a journey right now. This is part 3 of our journey.
Part 3.
I went to, if you haven't heard the story yet, went to an asset management workshop in Austin with GoBudance. And, it was just like a 2-day, let's chat about all things asset management. And it was awesome.
It's awesome. It's part 3 of the 3-part, well, maybe multi-part. We'll see. Could be 4 parts. But if you're just tuning in now, there has been 2 previous parts to this. So go back and listen to part 1 and part 2, which is 2 previous episodes.
Yeah, part 1, we really talked about things that kind of revolved about residents. That was like our big focus. For part 2, we chatted about how to really have your manager think like the owner and like what incentives to give everyone or ideas of incentives to make the property manager and the maintenance really, intertwined with the property. And now part 3
is about,
we're going to start off with KPIs.
KPIs.
Yeah.
All right.
So key performance indicators. Something that we chatted about, maybe this could go with like, how do you have the property manager think like an owner? But should we have economic occupancy on the KPIs, right? So they have what the least occupancy is and what the occupancy is. But do you want to see like, hey, yes, we're 96% occupied, but our economic occupancy is 86%. Like that's a big difference. So we're giving 10% of our units away this month because of the lack of bringing down delinquency. And so that was very eye-opening. I was like, wow, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea because I feel like that's kind of lost sometimes on the on-site manager. If you want just to recap here, if you want a full explanation of KPIs and how Susie and I track KPIs, go back and listen to episode 120, where we talk all about KPIs, all the KPIs that we track. But specifically, this one is about economic vacancy. There's something that we don't track on our KPIs, but I think moving forward, we're going to add that to the KPI spreadsheet, explain what that means to the on-site manager and the regional where, hey, great, I'm glad you have 95% occupancy. But if you're only collecting enough to make it at 85%, there's an issue there, right?
Just what happens when you collect that much less.
Right, because you want the physical occupancy to be exactly the same as the economic occupancy. So anyways.
Yeah, another big topic that we talked about even when it comes to KPIs and like that meeting with the manager is having a weekly L10. So L10 is from like the EOS system. So whatever you use and trying to explain it so that people who aren't familiar with L10 know it. It's just having a structure to the meetings, right? Like there are main points that you want to talk about, whether that's running through the KPIs and then adding on projects. Have it all written out so that the manager knows what he or she is getting into every single week. So that there's no just like, oh, what are we talking about today? Oh, well, I don't have that report ready, or oh, I don't have that. It's like, you do, because we do it all the time.
Let me look through my computer. Okay, you click.
Yep.
5 minutes later. Yeah. So
try to avoid that. Just the structure so that everybody, knows their role at the meeting so that nothing is missed. Another thing like, oh, I didn't know. No, you did know because you were supposed to report it at the meeting.
Exactly.
Totally. Something else that the group suggested adding to your KPIs is like an open unit tracker. So a lot of times, I think it's sometimes unclear, even with the staff on site, how many units are rent ready or not rent ready, which amazes me. But if you added this kit to the KPI, there could be 5 statuses. I don't remember what everybody spit out, so I'm just kind of guessed, but one could be walked and damage list created, right? So like she got in there, he or she got in there, and everything has been documented. 2, you have a trash out. If you don't have to trash out, you can skip to 3, which is like paint, carpet, appliances. You could add anything to that if you want, but it just seemed like that was a good order. 4 is cosmetic repairs, and 5 is rent ready, so that you actually know what is going on inside every single unit.
Yeah, it's a great point because we do track number of units rent ready and number of units not rent ready or need to be turned, right? And maybe having that 5-point system there next next to it. So say unit 101 is a 3, right? So they have paint and appliances or something like that.
Yep.
So it's ready for cosmetic stuff and everything like that. So it's on its way, right? Susie and I are huge on when a unit is vacated, get in there, get the trash out immediately.
Yes.
We were sick and tired of going into units after it's been vacated for, 2 weeks and there's still food in the fridge. The fridge and electricity has been turned off. And guess what? Now you have roaches and you have bugs and all this other nasty crap. And guess what? Not only is it affecting that unit, but now it's affecting other units around it. And you have resident satisfaction going down because of bug and pest control issues, right? So we're all about vacated, trash out immediately, and then we'll worry about the rest later. So yeah.
He feels very strongly about it.
I like adding that to the KPI list.
Cool. Hey, I'm glad actually. Yeah. That's cool. So I'm actually going to skip. I want to skip to these two because I feel like it kind of goes along with the KPIs. But when we're talking about like renewals and notices to vacate, like all of this tracking could go along in the same place. But for renewals, like how often are people giving renewals or like how far out? And then is there an incentive to renew closer up? Because some people at the workshop were like, well, I have applicants who say they're going to move in and then they tell me they're not moving in the day before. And I was like, whoa. Let's talk about this. So something that I thought was great that I heard was that they were doing renewals 90 days out, but the incentive was larger at 90 days. Like, hey, if you decide within the 5 days of receiving this, like you get your first month's rent free, but after this date and after this date, like I think after 30 days, you get just nothing.
30 days out, you just get,
I think for 60, you get nothing. So like, it really is that strong incentive to commit to living at the apartment. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, if people renew and they decide to move out, right? Or I guess they sign a lease, right? So they have to break the lease and things like that. But as far as going back to what you said, you have applicants, that one guy was saying he has applicants come in and then the day before they ended up, bailing.
Yeah.
We kind of circumvented that issue by requiring holding fees.
Yes.
Holding fees, right? So it's an actual additional item now. It's not a deposit anymore, which we talked about 2 episodes ago. So learn more about that if you go back to a couple episodes ago. But basically knowing that they're not going to, they're like $100. So it's like not knowing you're not going to get $100 back, for if you're in a Class C apartment complex, $100 goes a long ways. So.
Even for when we moved into our apartment though, I would have paid $100.
Yeah.
And been kind of sad if I didn't get it back.
Yeah. Well, I think we had to pay some kind of deposit just to get on a waiting list or something.
Oh, yeah. We did that. That's a great way to get additional income. Actually, so I paid to be higher up on the waiting list.
Pay extra money to get on the waiting list. Yeah. Definitely do that.
Yeah, that's actually.
And we get the first pick of all the apartments.
Yes, we did.
Thumbs up.
And we had to do that. Oh, I like it. So the next topic that I want to talk about is notice to vacates. This huge thing was like getting ahead of unit turns. So start scheduling and purchasing so you aren't waiting for appliances, etc. But like with a notice to vacate, I want to add it to the lease that once somebody has noticed to vacate it or they're getting evicted, that if we think they skipped, that we can go into the apartment. It's just like an extra layer of protection. We've had that happen a lot where people think we do the eviction notice and then they skip.
Yeah. Or you're saying like immediately going into the apartment versus having to wait until you get lock out or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For the reasons of food. So at least with us on our leases, like if anything has to do with an emergency, like you don't have to give any notice. And so to me, abandonment is an emergency. I guess this all depends on like different states, but even in Oklahoma, for example, you have to keep the residents' items for 30 days after they're evicted, which is so awful. Yeah, so awful. Just sits there. But what I have learned is like our property managers were keeping everything. And I was like, if any of these apartments have bugs, everything needs to go. Because like the ripple that occurs, I don't want to get rid of their stuff. I want to get rid of the bugs. And so that furniture is no longer valuable. Like they're not going to move it somewhere full of bugs into a new home. I've never, ever seen someone do that.
Yeah.
Even though I'd love to. But it's like just getting ahead of everything.
Yeah. But check with your lawyer to see what you're actually allowed to do, because we did check with our lawyer and things like that. Like, hey, if there's bugs and it's causing a pest control issue, can we remove the furniture? Absolutely. Right. Like, so, but he's given us that authority to do so based on his interpretation. So make sure that you check your lease with your attorney if you want to be able to remove some, and also check with the local statutes as well. So
I also have a thought on the notice to vacate thing. So to encourage more renewals and less notice notice to Vacate. Because when I said like get ahead of the unit turns, what if you really got ahead of like the unit turns and your business plan? What if you decided to do a unit turn while the people were living in there? So it's like, yes, you know that their lease is coming due and you don't know if they're going to stay. And, you know, it could even be 6 months before, but then you have all the unit turns out of the way, but then they live in it. And that is really the incentive to renew because they're like, man, I got to live in this upgraded unit. Why would I want to leave?
Yeah. I just don't know how difficult that would be, you know, with somebody living there with all their stuff around.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, there is that, but I wonder if there's ways to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, we've given the option as well, saying like, hey, if you're bumping the rent by $200 or $250, whatever, say they're coming up from, you know, they're an old lease or whatever, that they're $300 or $500 below market rent. We have given that option, like, hey, we're going to raise your, you know, we're going to bring you to market, or, you know, we're going to bring you $200 up, but you get to choose from these options, right? And whether that's new appliances, new flooring, new paint, things like that, you don't have to stay. We'll upgrade the unit a little bit, but you can stay in it. And then they feel like they're getting value for the money versus just having to, you know, raising the rent by $200 and they're getting nothing out of it, right? So yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah. And so as you say all of this, right, like upgrades, new amenities, all these things, as this is all happening, are you documenting it anywhere? Like one big thing of trying to get occupancy up and the residents that you desire in your apartment unit, like what are you doing to market them to get there? And something that was suggested is that, like, say you as the owner or whomever, like even if you're trying to market a single family home and you aren't in the marketing space, like utilize Chat GPT to come up with a apartment description, because they will come up with a much better one that you will. I mean, it's true. Like you can take photos from apartments.com if your apartment was ever on there, but if it wasn't, please try to take good photos, because if you don't, then you're ruining it for yourself anyways. But have a clever AI solution come up with the description, but make sure to add all your amenities. Like if you are the same price as another apartment community, but you have more amenities, but they are just not on your website or some Google page, you are also not helping yourself at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think using ChatGPT is a very powerful tool, right? Whether that's curating the description specifically for that unit or curating a description for your property writ large, right? Your landing page, making sure that it pops, right? Making sure it sounds great and very inviting and more like a community, right? So you can tailor your ChatGPT responses to that if you're not a very creative person to do so. Yeah, it's a really great way to use AI from a marketing standpoint for sure. And also you can use ChatGPT to create other things, you know, like marketing, like Facebook Marketplace ads, right? For when you do Facebook boosts and things like that. And also you can do Zillow boost and all this other stuff too. And you can use ChatGPT to create your marketing material for that too.
Cool. Well, I want to end it there. Okay. I want to end this part 3 with AI, and I'm actually going to start our last and final part 4 with an AI-based tip. So make sure you listen to next week's too.
Ooh, AI-based tips.
But are you ready for the multifamily myth buster?
I'm ready for it. Give it to me.
Okay, so I cannot use ChatGPT because I know nothing about AI.
Bust a myth.
Well, I want you to tell your experience.
Yeah.
How easy is it?
Anybody can use it, right? And you can it's literally just asking a question, right? And the better you use,
Jeeves.
Yeah.
But better.
Ask Jeeves if you remember that from back in the day. One of the main competitors of Google in the 90s. Anyways, yeah, just go on to ChatGPT. The version 3.5 is free. You can also use Bard. Well, I think that's now called Gemini. It's Google. It's free. But I feel like sometimes, anyways, I won't review different generative AI sources here, but the easiest one to use, in my opinion, is just ChatGPT. You can use it for free, the 3.5 version of it. And so you can go in there, and the better you are at asking questions or what you want it to do, the better the responses are, right? Say, you need this, you can tell it to act like someone or act like something, and tell it what to do, and it'll spit out answers. And keep refining that over and over in that same thread.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything like, think like a historian. How would this person explain, World War II? It doesn't, you can use it for everything. It's awesome. Well, thank you for explaining simple, that.
Straightforward. You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thank you all for joining us for this third part of the asset management workshop that Susie attended. We're hitting all the highlights here, and we are going to be doing another episode, so tune in next week as well. Thank you all, Adventurous family. And until next time, explore more. Adventure awaits.
Cool.